I was thinking
Good
that.
stuff. Yeah.
You're live on the Trinity Broadcasting Network around the world.
Yeah, man. Now, hey, look, for real though, I mean, my heart's pounding. I ain't gonna lie, I'm way out of my room. I don't like to get up in front of people and stuff like that. I don't know, a lot of things, a lot of people have brought me to this moment, actually. You pushed me out here. I appreciate that, man. You helped to make me see a couple things I never saw.
Amen.
But I don't know, honestly, what I hope to, I just hope that somebody can find, I can help somebody find something to help them out and maybe give it to somebody else, you know. Lay down your guns and find a peace in life, you know what I mean? But, because I damn sure found it and I never thought I would, tell you the truth.
Amen.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. Tell you the truth, and I'm far from one of the guys you would. I never thought I would be up here doing what I'm doing or found what I have found, honestly. But I don't know. I guess I'll start out telling you a little bit about myself, my road. But man, been crazy. When I was younger, I just went through a lot of shit. I guess my earliest years, tell you the truth, my first memories, I remember living out of a camper, of a pickup truck. My dad was AWOL for the Army, and that's where we was living. We was living out in the middle of the forest, and I mean, my dad, my family, my dad's side of my family, my cousins, all that, we was, they was tough love kind of people, you know what I mean? I had a couple uncles that were Vietnam vets. Another uncle, state championship wrestler. I mean, they showed you tough love. And anyway, I remember that was my first memories, really. And eventually, as things went, I remember I was at my grandma's house. We had a get together, and I was so used to running around and doing that type of thing that all my family was there, and I ended up using the restroom. I ended up taking a piss on the side of a tree, and that's what fired my grandma up. She called the cops on my dad and got my dad arrested, and he went and done his time. Then we was able to get back into society. We ended up moving to Monrovia with the rest of my dad's family, and man, it was really a great thing though. I remember we had 4-wheelers, dirt bikes. It was all about football, fishing, camping, running around. Some roughneck country boys, you know what I mean? I just want to say this, throughout my earlier years, from the get-go, I don't even know how old I was introduced to drugs at that point. I mean, they smoked weed, they drank. I remember my youngest years, I would go when I see my grandpa, he'd set me up on his lap, and that was my chance to drink out of the glass of beer he had on the table. Stuff like that. I don't know how old I was, I don't know none of that shit, but yeah, drugs came into my life at that point. And anyway, just to let it be known, drugs have always been a dilemma of mine from my earliest years. But anyway, it was I was used to that. I loved that life, man. We was always together. We was having fun. My uncles and my dad, my cousins, we was raised to, they enforced tough love. I mean, you didn't fail. You know what I mean? If you failed, you was ridiculed. You know, you was either tough or you was weak. And you know, as much as I say it might be crazy, I loved it. I believed in it. I mean, they would do crazy shit to us. I mean, I remember when me and my cousins, there was a car wash, we would always go swimming and stuff like that. And for an example, this is what they would do raising us up. We would literally have to kneel on the ground if we wanted to go to the car wash or go anywhere. They would do shit like they had a log chain. And they wouldn't hurt us, but they would take that log chain and smack that chain real close to you. And if you moved, they would play the game like, well, no, you can't go now, and blah, 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 you know, stuff like that. And like I said, they wouldn't hurt us, but it just instilled that toughness in us, you know what I mean? Could be any moment they snag you up and throw you down in a sleeping bag and wrap you up and lay on top of you, you know, get you to overcome freaking out, pretty much, you know, things like that. But like I said, it was a tough love. There wasn't no hurting or anything like that, and we always had fun. We was always running around, like I said, outdoors type of things. My mom was never around. I think she worked a third shift job. I know she worked a third shift job at the VA, but they ended up splitting up. I think I was 7 years old. They ended up splitting up. Anyway, one day I come home, and my mom had said that we'll take a walk. Let's go take a walk around the lake, which we did that quite a bit. Well, we walked around the lake, and we get to the front of the lake, and bam, I jump in this car, and I'm introduced to my stepdad right there, bam. And Lord have mercy, man. That was when my life turned upside down, to tell you the truth. We got in that car. I was all about country. I was all about that type of life, that type of people. We got in that car and we drove to the center of Indianapolis. I remember this ghetto apartments. And man, my life turned upside down at that point, literally. My stepdad was totally different. You can imagine the country boys, the rough type of living, tough love type stuff. You fight, you're not weak, blah, blah, blah. Man, my stepdad was the type of dude who wasn't into none of that. He was into golfing and chess. Or, my dad came to pick me up one day, and this dude gets in a closet with a golf club and hides. He's scared to death. You know what I mean? At that point, I've already got a judgment against him. I'm in the city. Everything's totally different from me. If there's anything y'all have had in your life that gave you a feeling inside of you, just makes you want to puke. That was a crazy time of my life. The schools, everything, I couldn't adapt. I literally couldn't adapt. I couldn't adapt to the people. I couldn't adapt to teachers. They ended up pulling me out of school for like at least a year that I can remember. I didn't go to school the whole year because I couldn't grasp everything. I couldn't get along with nobody. And on top of that, man, my stepdad, damn, it ended up being shit like, my mom was the only close one to me. My dad pretty much disappeared, my whole family. I remember waiting on him, he never showed up, hardly. But my mom was my best friend at that point, and she had always followed his steps, you know what I mean? But I remember him, stupid little shit, we clashed. Like my mom would go out to walk the dog or whatever, and man, he would lock me. For some reason, I remember a lock being on the outside of my room. He'd lock me in my room with one of them little slide locks. He would lock me in there for a minute, and then before my mom would return from walking the dog, he would let me out. and I'd be so mad, and he'd end up pushing me down on the ground. Just stupid little shit. When my mom came in, I would try and reach out to my mom, and he would say, you know, none of this is happening. And that's how it ended up being. Nobody ever believed that type of shit. And just crazy. A lot of little things like that. It wasn't like physical abuse, but it was mental. I almost wonder if I'd rather be beat, tell you the truth, than to deal with half the stuff I dealt with, because it seems like it always manifests in your head constantly. I remember he would have such an effect over my mom. I still don't remember how old I was at the point. I had to have been 8, maybe 9 years old, but I remember him. I just remember the little things. He taught me how to pick locks. Taught me how to pick little locks. The next thing I know, I'm allowed to go out and play and shit. Ghetto-ass apartments out in the city, I'm allowed to go out and play. And I'm picking locks on these little, on the little telephone things. The little telephone boxes, God knows how many people's phones up. I was just tearing shit up. But I'd turn around and go back in the house and the door would be locked. Now, I'd knock on the door, I couldn't get back in. It's just stupid shit like that. I'd go around peeking the window. Yeah, they'd be in there doing their thing, you know what I mean? It's, and just crazy, man. I remember at one point in time we was able, I don't know, my mom talked him into it to help me touch base with what I used to know, but I remember she talked him into going camping at one point in time. And we had went camping and he hated it. He hated the bugs and stuff like that. I thought that was so feminine. What? You know what I mean? And ended up him and my mom getting an argument. Man, I remember sitting on the picnic table the whole time, wishing that I would have had been big enough to actually beat his brains out. Man, I remember him pushing my mom around the campsite, arguing with her and stuff like that. But I mean, just little things I remember. And like I said, it wasn't physical abuse, it was always mental. I remember the people that I was taken away from, and that was so deeply instilled in me that toughness and that strength, without a guidance of growing up with that tough love, it was left off and ended up manifesting in me. And I just didn't know how to deal with shit. But all this stupid little shit happened throughout my life. I was probably I'm trying to stay on track here, but I was probably 10 years old, something like this, and all this was always happening. I was 10 years old, and I never had no brothers or sisters or anybody with me. But my stepdad ended up bringing, he had a younger boy. He was probably, I'd say 7 at the time, and I was 10. Well, he ended up bringing his son into the picture. And that ended up being my best friend right there. He was a younger kid, man. He was a really good kid, man. He always looked up to me. That was my buddy. And he would end up coming over on the weekends and things like that. And it just so happened that at that point in time, I get back into school, start getting into a routine. He's starting to show up in my life. I'm trying to adapt and overcome. But I remember things being brought into my life like a babysitter. I had to be dropped off at the babysitter's house. And it was black people. And I'm not getting racist or anything like that, but yeah, I was dropped off at the babysitter, and that was another turmoil in itself. I was always treated different, and I remember having to be laid down to take a nap. And in order for me to get back up, I would have to convince them that I fell asleep. And man, I remember I had to pull the sheet over my head and just lay still to try to fool them into believing that I had fell asleep. But the whole time that was happening, they let their kids run around all over the place, all over me, all over everything. It was crazy. And it even lasted to the point to where I would miss the lunch that they had fixed. So I would have to get up and they would give me rice with a little bit of sugar on it. And stupid little things like that, just crazy, man. And my stepbrother at the same time, and when he would come back on weekends, his just so happened his mom had a black boyfriend. And I'm not saying anything against black people. I'm in a different spot in my life now. But he would come home, like I said, he was about 7 or 8 at the time. He would come on the weekends, and this little boy come back black and blue, man, and had his collarbone stomped on, all kinds of stuff. My stepdad wouldn't do nothing, man. I couldn't understand it, nothing. But finally things go on, and he ends up getting custody of my stepbrother. Like I said, this was my little buddy, man. And he ends up getting custody of my stepbrother. He moves in and we're clicking. And man, I take him with me everywhere. I ended up finally adapting and meeting people. We had a little football game, play some basketball. He'd always go with me. And ends up finding out right off the bat that he has muscular dystrophy, which that right there in itself instilled something in me against God, as I knew him, to where I refused to understand how that could happen to people. I mean, this little kid literally was my only best friend. I mean, the crowd I hung around with, they took him in and everything, especially after finding out that he'd become everybody's little buddy. I'd take him everywhere. But throughout dealing with all the turmoil and all the bullshit, my stepdad, blah, 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 my little brother, I watched him grow up. And he grew up just to the point of being able to maybe even like get into puberty and be able to run around and do things, be able to get out there on the football field with me and play football. And just to slowly be grabbed by this disease and pulled all the way backwards over years. I think I was probably 16, 17, like I say, over years. Just pulling him straight back to where, man, this little boy, it draws you all the way back to where your muscles totally fail and you just you ain't got it in you to breathe. But I would push him around in a wheelchair, blah, blah, blah. The reason why I'm getting so in depth with this is because this played a major fact in the beginning of why I resented God. I hated God. I couldn't understand why he would do this to people. And anyway, ended up he was getting towards the end of his disease, so it was causing stress in the household. I could tell my stepdad and my mom, it was causing stress. It got to everybody. But I was getting to the age too, to where I was at the point to where, look, I'm finally getting it in me to where I'm better. I stand my ground with my stepdad, you know what I mean, for the first time. I remember coming home one day, and he wants to play them little games with me all the time. And finally, no, he ain't happening. And I remember standing in the hallway, and he charged down the hallway. I pissed him off because I was standing my ground, but he charged down the hallway. And I ended up piecing him up. I got a good uppercut on him, bust his lip, and it's like, at that moment, he literally, I didn't knock him out. I didn't really hurt him or anything. I busted his lip and stopped him dead in his tracks. Man, now most of the people you talk to you'd probably picture me standing up here thinking, oh man, yeah, I did this shit. I stood my ground. I put him in a spot. A big part of me felt that way. But man, he was the man of the household. He was holding everything together. Man, I think I had literally stripped the pride from that man at that point in time, which caused him to, at that point, I remember him drastically pulling back from being the man of the house. Started cheating on my mom, started just doing his own thing. And the whole household fell apart, man. I think I caused that. Actually, I know I caused it. And the whole household fell apart. At the point in time, my stepbrother needed us all there to carry him to the bathroom, to say the least. And they ended up splitting up. Me and my mom moved to, if y'all are familiar, like Raymond and Sloan Dog Patch area. I mean, this is a real deal. Motherfuckers shoot you in the face down there. They don't joke around. But moved further back into the ghetto. And she ended up getting endometriosis so bad to where she couldn't even work. So I literally had to start paying some of the bills, all that stuff. Long story short, I get kicked out of high school for fighting and stupid shit. When I stood my ground, when I fought, the way my mind seemed was right to fight, I tore so much apart that I wish, but have stayed the same, I guess. Anyway, yeah, man, I remember I had just got my license, all that shit, so I was able to go back and forth from my mom's and still visit my little brother. And I remember the last time I saw him, his mom called me to Riley Hospital. I had a girlfriend. Me and my girlfriend drove over at the time, and damn, he was confined to a wheelchair, but he dropped a cigarette, and he wasn't able to put it out. He was smoking. Somehow smoking, dropped it, wasn't able to put it out, and burned him up pretty bad. Somehow, that's the whole story I got of it. But it burned him up, and he was in hospital bed and all that shit. All I remember is being able to talk to him a little bit, man. And I gave him the necklace I had on my neck. And I went on back to doing my thing. That was the last time I seen him. But yeah, man, that played a big part on me. I hate a guy for that. I still have a hard time trying to understand. And even all the way through to when the little boy was buried at Crown Hill Cemetery, I remember going to visit his gravesite. Man, and it was nothing but overturned dirt with a little peg stuck in the ground with fucking pop cans and shit all everywhere. I mean, what, man? How does this happen to people? You know what I mean? But anyway, that messed with me right there. And I don't know why. Just plus the age I was at. My mom was going through the endometriosis, so that was my first introduction to opiates right there. She had opiates, she had the pain pills and all that. I started dipping into the pain pills. I started getting pretty stupid, man, really. I started running around. It sounds funny now, but back in the day in that area, it It was serious to me at the time. I got into a game called 2-1 Fatal. I started running around. I started selling weed, sheets of acid. I started getting crazy. My girlfriend stuck around. I remember coming home one day and my arms were all bloody. I had a hooded sweatshirt on, my arms were all bloody and shit. I was in my routine of things. I would car systems, things like that. A couple of houses I would hit every night. I would go hard with it. And anyway, I went back to the house and I'll be damned, my girlfriend's sitting at the table with my mom, and my girlfriend's snitching me out. She's about to call the cops on me and shit. And they both give me the ultimatum of like, you're gonna stop your shit, or I'm gonna call the cops on you. I'm doing this. And this was my girlfriend. This wasn't my mom. This wasn't anybody in my family. I'd been good to run. But my girlfriend had showed me a type of love at that moment that I threw my cards in, you know what I mean? That was true love, man. She loved me. I don't even know if she even knew at the moment, which I'm thinking she did. My little girl was on the way, my baby. At that point in time, man, I got my head out of my ass. We moved to Brown County, raised 3 kids, man. At that point, right there, I got a job at Walmart mopping floors. But I was hungry. I found a love in my family and my kids that pulled me out of all that life. We came to the country. I got in touch with things again, had my kids. I actually, at the age of 20, man, I literally did good, man. I had accounts with U-Bill at Copenhagen, Oakleaf Homes. I actually picked him up from a guy named Kim Ross here in Brown County. I don't know if anybody knows him. He had a lot of contracts. I worked with him for a while. He started smoking crack. All that shit fell on my lap. The crew, there's like 6 or 7 Mexicans. I ended up getting a couple trucks, trailers, all that. My knowledge in construction, I ended up really taking off with that. I ended up subcontracting from a place called, it sounds crazy, but Shank Painting, and ended up running crews up and down the East Coast, painting Revcos, Best Buys, Banana Republics, Starbucks. I was doing good, man. I was really doing good. And it's funny how we get wrapped up in shit and we lose track of all the small things, man. I didn't put enough time into my family. I thought I was doing good. Money and bills and shit like that was all good. But I didn't put enough time when I needed to. And I mean, we probably grew apart too, but she started cheating around. And we split up. And that was in 08. Is when we split up. And I lost my mind. Lost my mind, for real. Never had I been in trouble with the law in my life. I lost my mind. I lost everything that meant something to me. Love as I knew it, you know what I mean? My kids, my girl, everything. Lost my mind. I actually took the last couple of checks off the jobs that I was doing. I took the checks, left all my tools, everything with the guys. I cut out. Man, I jumped. Never have I really even drank. But I went from smoking weed to doing, you know, some pain pills, lightweight pain pills and shit like that. Man, I immediately jumped into drinking couple fifths a day within a week or two. I cut out. I started getting harder in the opiates to drown my pain. I don't know. I stayed tough for a little bit, but my pain, man, the pain was so deep that like when I would get my kids on the weekends, Well, I couldn't do that unless I found me some methadone, or I was stocked up on this and that so I could stay right. I could stay in a good mood. I could have fun with my kids. And hell, before I knew it, I wasn't just trying to stay right, trying to stay in a good mood and cover my pain up, but before I knew it, that was my lifestyle, you know what I mean? Man, I started getting real deep into that shit. And I started really spinning out. From 08 up until now, man, I've been in and out of counties. I've been through four stints in prison. Craziness. I know a few of you in here can relate to prison. I've heard you talk, brother. But each time I got locked up, I would manage to pull out of my addictions and eventually become strong, get into my workout, get into my mind, get myself right again. And each time I stayed strong, but then I would get released and I would just get back into my kind of crazy real quick. I didn't have nobody to really look out for me when I got on the street. Literally, I hate saying it on camera, but this is what I had ended up feeling like after doing so much time. It feels like the system just takes a dump on the sidewalk, drops you off. You know what I mean? And not only the system, but man, y'all, whoever's been to prison, y'all know, I mean, man, the system, and I'm not trying to talk shit, anything, I'm just trying to make a point. It's a catch-22, yo. It might be good in here. They might be arresting these people for a reason, but man, once you cross DLC and get into prison, man, you ain't being reformed. You ain't being helped to be made right again. You're being thrown in with a bunch of fucking animals. I mean, y'all know how it is. You know, they say they send you there to make you right and all that shit, but anybody who's been there, you already know. Average prison holds 3,000 people. Man, if I want to put it into numbers, to tell you the truth, I would think average you might find, what y'all say, 800, not even that, man. The percentage of people that actually give a fuck and want to help you is so small that it's just not there. You know what I mean? You're left to hustle, you're left to try and make your way. What I'm ending up saying is after all this time, man, it ends up getting in your head, you know what I mean? And although you try to be strong, you get out, you find the willpower to try and do right, but you get back in your shit. Man, all of this snowballed throughout the past 12, 14 years of my life. I honestly couldn't tell you what years I've been out. I can't tell you. Literally, it's all. But like I say, every time, man, you know what's crazy? You know how they say you'll never find an atheist in a foxhole? You know what I mean? Never have I really believed in God, but there's something in me, and I hope you all hear me when I say this. There's something in all of us, I think, to where we know what's right. We know what's right. Nobody taught us that. Nothing like that. I honestly have wondered if you couldn't put a person in a box from a young age and raise him to not teach him no morals or anything else, and once he gets of age of adulthood, let him out. And let him see a young child or something like that, and just see if that man naturally shows that feeling of what's right in you. There's something in you that, crazy example, if you see a little infant run out the road and you see a car coming, bam, no choice, nobody would have to teach me. I'm running, I'm gonna try and help him. You care, there's a beauty, if you look up the meaning of these two words, it means being in touch spiritually, intellectually, with spirit, wisdom. There's a sense of being, there's a sense of enlightenment that you naturally have in you. And I've always stayed in touch with that, what I'm getting at through prison and everything. I caught my first prison term, and it was crazy, man. I mean, all that shit you see on TV is real. The boys, the gangsters, you know, the fags, the this, that, and the other. The hustle of prison is real shit. And I was cool with that. I felt, you know, I stayed in my lane. But you never find an atheist in a foxhole, even though I didn't believe in a God. Ironically, this was my first tattoo, man. I got in the Bible, it's Ecclesiastes 3:16. And it made sense to me because this is what it says, moreover under the sun in the place of judgment, I've seen wickedness. And in the place of righteousness, I've saw iniquities. But I believe in the end, God will judge, we'll all be judged the same. To me, that means all the wickedness on the street, and I'm in a joint, man, and I'm getting a sense of my government, this, that, and the other, but it's crazy. They ain't the good people they're supposed to be. They have iniquities. Although I don't believe in God, I get this tattooed on me. It all progresses though, man. You know what I mean? I'm in and out of the joint, blah, blah, blah. Each time I get locked up, I'm finding a sense of what I know is right. I'm trying to do the right thing. Like I say, I get back into, I'm depleted from the streets and my addictions. I find it in me to stay headstrong in what I know is right. I get back into my working out. I get back into getting my mind right, reading in my books and whatnot. And over years, it progressed. And each time I get out on the street, it ended up getting worse as it goes. But you're talking 12 years or so. Like I say, a lot of counties, 4 different stints in prison. I get out, I managed to do good for a little bit, but here recently, the last few times I've got out, man, I went wild. I pulled out in Indianapolis, I came to Bloomington to try to get closer to my kids, trying to do right. But it introduced me to a huge homeless population. The drugs are abundant. It just got way worse for me, man. Way worse. I got on a needle. Things like that. It literally, and you're talking to a guy that I'm a man. I know what I need to do to make it. And to fathom being on the street and eating out of a dumpster and fucking getting a little bit of money to keep your high every day, I lost all that, all sense of willpower, all sense of what I believed in being strong. For the first time in my life, I didn't even maintain a job. I didn't maintain a cell phone. I lost my relationship with the world in general. I ended up staying in the shadows, you know what I mean? Every time I looked I would walk down the sidewalk, and literally I could tell you, I look into a window of a restaurant and see what I used to, families sitting there eating, people doing their thing. And I knew and felt at that point, I don't belong. I can't go in there. It's not me. Everybody knows I don't belong in there. But it all drove me down to the point to where literally, man, I wanted to die. I'm telling you, I wanted to die. My last prison stint, I got out, and once again, I'm strong, I'm built up. My last prison stint was a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago. I get out of prison, and I make it 3 months. I go from 190 solid, my head is right. I get out. Within the first week, I have a job. This chick I know gives me a place to stay. 1 week, and I fell off. And I fell off hard. In 3 months, I run hard. I was hitting the needle. When I do that, I don't care. I was doing crazy stuff, man. If I wanted something and I don't like you, I'm gonna kick your door in. I just did whatever. I ran. I swear to you, it took me all the way down from, in 3 months, took me all the way down from 190 pounds to 143. And I was literally eating out of dumpsters, running around on the street. All I remember is I came to about probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm hungry. Well, I look over, it's a church. I know there's a kitchen in this church. Man, last thing I'm gonna do, even though I don't believe, I'm not gonna hit a church. What am I thinking, man? I'm not thinking. I come to, I'm hungry, that's all I know. I go where I bust the window out, I go in there, I'm looking for the kitchen, I get sidetracked on all kinds of stuff that's worth money. I start robbing the place. I finally make it to the kitchen. It's great. So I gotta say this. I was so far out there, man. I was so far out there, I'm in a dark room. There's cash registers and stuff like this, iPads, blah, blah, blah. Man, I'm hitting this place, I'm crazy, I'm hitting this place. Like I said, my whole motive was I'm hungry. I end up filling up a bag, I'm rounding up, and right beside the cash registers, all I could make out was this little cardboard setup beside it. Well, I'm going hard, and this cardboard setup has its shiny bags on it, so I'm thinking, man, you know, once people pay for their stuff, they grab a bag of snacks, and they walk out the door. Well, this place had a climbing place in the back. I got my bag and I'm hitting. I see these snacks, I grab these snacks, I rip it up and I dump it in my mouth. It's chalk. It's chalk, man. I'm spitting, I got dry mouth, I'm starving, I'm going hard. And I get a mouthful of chalk. I get it, man, I end up spitting it out, I get my bag set on the floor and I find the entrance to the kitchen. And I'm literally, I can remember bits and pieces of this, but I'm slowly blacking off. I'm not here and there, but I'm making it strong through the whole area. I make it to the kitchen. I remember hitting the fridge and going to the cabinets, and then I really can't remember much. I had got my bags, I got out of the building, and I made it. I got out. Man, a day later, I'm going down the sidewalk. I ended up stealing a bike to make it from point A to point B. That's what got me caught. When I got caught, it says on my paperwork that I got caught with 2 crowbars, a hammer, a bag of popsicles, and a bag with butterscotch coffee beans. I mean, seriously, what the fuck? That's how far I'm spun out. I'm spun out. And literally every time I come to, and I'm not, if I ain't high, I'm in reality. And I swear to you, fellas, man, if I could have found a gun, I was too scared to do it any otherwise. If I could have found a gun, no questions asked, I'd have blew my brains out. Seriously, I'd have blew my brains out. And ended up that bike I was stealing, though, that's what got me caught up. The cops caught me. And yeah, I ended up going to the county, and I get faced with an open cap of 10, habitual on a burglary. So I mean, that's bad news, man. I'm hit. You know what I mean? I'm hit. I'm so depleted. I'm so depleted. I never stooped to this level. I just didn't give a shit. I got put in a save block. You remember the bread story? I told this in AA. I got put in a save block. Man, this is unfathomable to me as a man. I got put in a save block, and it's 24-1 or 23-1. You get out 1 hour a day. I'm in that room, and I'm so depleted, man. All I'm thinking is food, food. I'm so hungry. I'm so. When the cops caught me, I didn't care. I wanted something to drink. Oh my God, that's all I kept asking for. I want something to drink. I told them myself, I don't care. They start questioning me. I was like, yeah, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. I told them myself. They left the room. I lay down on the floor. I was to the end of my rope all the way around. I was sick of who I am. This, that, and the other. I get to jail. I get back. Sorry, get off track. I get to a lockdown, and I'm so hungry. I can bet, man, literally, my mat was on the floor. When I got up, it took energy to get up off the floor, man. That's how weak I was. And I remember looking out the window and seeing this fucking piece of bread that one of the trustees dropped on the stair. There's 30 people in this block, and a lockdown block. When people get out, they ain't about cleaning shit up. They just want to get out, take their shower, watch TV, get back in their room. So it's nasty. Drop this piece of bread on the stairwell. I'm eyeballing this piece of bread for hours, literally hours. I'm like, man, I want to eat them motherfuckers. I'm hungry. I get out on my hour out. I casually, this is crazy, man. I'm laughing about it. This is crazy. I grab this fucking piece of bread off his stairs, and I act like I'm throwing it in the trash and turn a corner and get in the shower, and I'm eating this one. I'm eating the best piece of bread I've ever had in my life. Crazy, man. Crazy. I finally get put, now I'm being totally, I'm telling you about one of the probably most humblest times I've ever had in my life. Humiliating. If anybody knows about prison and jail and everything else, even when you hit rock bottom, there's a code of ethic between inmates, between convicts. You stay in your lane. If you get out of your lane, there's going to be static. Y'all know that, man. If there's a store in the block, if you borrow something, you better pay it back. There's going to be consequences if you don't. Whoever's been there knows what I'm talking about. Man, I didn't care. I didn't care. I wasn't caring about being a man, being strong, having my willpower, having my moral ethics, everything. I did not give a shit. Man, I literally, once again, somehow, I was bringing myself back to a God I didn't even believe in. And this is how I very first got brought back to God when I got arrested this time. I literally prayed, please let me fall asleep. God, just don't let me wake up. Seriously, kill me. Take me out. I mean, I felt I've seen enough of this world that as chaos, man, I don't want nothing to do with it. I was done. I was done. I prayed that prayer a couple times. I was too scared to hang myself. I was too scared to jump off the rail, whatever. My luck, I'm going to be in a wheelchair. Somebody's going to be wiping my ass for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? But I was ready to go for real, man. I ended up getting put back in the block. This is not me. This is not me. I get put back in the block. And like I said, I'm so hungry, I'm depleted, I'm lost. And I don't give a shit. So I immediately try to play this smooth game, and I talk the store out of some food, blah, blah, blah. Man, I get a week's worth of food, and I literally smash that shit in a matter of a couple hours. Just because I'm so hungry, I'm out there, man. I don't know if anybody can relate to being that down and out. I was probably on the verge of death as is. But I had smashed that food knowing I couldn't pay it back. Throughout my prison experiences, I had it in the very back of my mind that I'm gonna pick up a hustle, I'll start picking, I'll start doing this, I'll pay for it before the time comes. But these guys are already on to me, man. They already know what's up. I ain't gonna be able to pay for that food. You know what I mean? So, and I ain't stupid too. I already know what's about to happen. So I get called up to the room. A couple black guys, y'all know how this shit goes down. These guys ain't playing around. They know my money ain't hit my books. I ain't gonna pay for it. Whatever it is, what it is. I could have probably took the dude's head off, tell you the truth. If I mustered up, I probably could have took his head off. He was a couple years younger than me. He really wasn't shit as far as fighting and stuff like that. But I managed to hang on to this moral. Hey, man, I'm trying to tell you I did something. I was hungry. I screwed up, blah, blah, blah. I did wrong, so go ahead, do what you gotta do. And I did. I left my hands to my side. I let this dude piece me up, man. I let this dude piece me up. For the first time, I had hit such a rock bottom that when I got put in jail rock bottom, I let all of my morals and ethics that I knew to hold true to in jail between convicts and your basic manhood all out the door. I was nobody, bro. I let this dude do this. I let it happen. It's pathetic to me. But yeah, I let the dude piece me up, man. I walked out of that room, and like it happens to everybody that's in that situation for the first time, I'm the one being looked at as the punk of the block. Man, you shouldn't have done that. Man, do you know how embarrassing, how low I felt at that time? Sickening. But I literally do not care, man. And like I said, all I really wanted was to die. But that was 15 months ago, 14 months ago. And thank God somehow I stayed in the county. They didn't ship me back off to prison. I didn't get back into that prison hustle, blah, blah, blah. I stayed in the county. After a couple months, I got to be trustee. And it pulled me out, and I was able to start eating. I was able to find my way that I never even thought I would be able to get back into what I did it every single time. I didn't think I'd be able to find the strength. I didn't know if I was too old or if I got too way down to where, man, my push-ups hurt. I hurt. I couldn't find the strength to get back into my routine. I didn't know if I'd be able to come back, tell you the truth. But somehow I started to get a grip of my own mind, and I slowly started building myself up. And staying in the county and being trustee allowed me to be around brush shoulders. Ended up being the top trustee. I ended up brushing shoulders with just different types of people. And through that, I managed to get a little strong, get back in my books, get my mind right, and finally found it in me to do something different. I didn't want nothing to do with that life. I had finally hit my rock bottom there, and I didn't know where I was at. But throughout this time, man, I literally tried to find that or follow that good in me. That sense of being. I'm trying to tell y'all, man, I find it hard to believe that when I talk about this that nobody relates. But I mean, your mom didn't teach you this. If you search deep enough, your mom didn't teach you this. The world didn't teach you this. You can't put words on it. There's something in your heart that you just know is pure. It's a sense of being, sense of spirit, sense of something you know is right. And I started digging towards that, man. And it's taken quite a bit of time, but man, I have actually, and I would be the last person that you would ever hear say this, but I've found God. I have found God, fellas.
Come on, brother.
I'm telling you, man. Seriously, it's a beautiful thing. And that sense of right pulled me in this direction. But when I started following that sense of right, throughout the past 15 months, things have came to me and in such a crazy way. Man, I've been behind these. Whoever been locked up knows that it's dead time. It's dead time. You get yourself right, you get out, and then you start over. Man, I've really been following this and trying to stay hard in this and learn. And as I have, man, I haven't even looked outside. Yet I've found and befriended, things have came to me. I've got a job with CSI. The guards got to know me through being trustee. There's a religious guy in Monroe County. I was in Monroe County for a year. There's a religious guy that does the maintenance work over there and everything. Well, he started, they let me do some painting work, and I got to move around. Everybody seen me. Everybody got to know me for who I was in my heart and everything. And this maintenance guy, he's a religious guy. He comes to me. They all get to know me. We talk and cut it up every once in a while. Man, like I say, I don't even know anybody out there. Nobody pulls for me out there. I've got a job set up through ASI at Monroe County, the guy that does all the government buildings around there. And that's his main aspect. He does the government buildings. But this guy comes into my life, sees me, sees who I am in my heart, offers me work. And I can't do that type of work unless I get my record taken care of. He even offers me up to $3,000 to expunge my record to be able to work with him. And so happens my record's so bad that would cost too much money. So, but he flips houses, man. And he's giving me a job of flipping houses, so I got a job lined up. And I would never tell anybody that this really, I used to have a different view on it, but I brushed shoulders with all the guards and a different type of people. The colonel and the major got together. I'm looking at an open cap of 10 over there. This ain't no fucking snitch shit like everybody labeled. I'm just being real, I'm being humble, I get to know people. I'm looking at an open cap of 10. I know I'm about to do some time. I'm fighting it at my court dates, I'm not signing pleas. The colonel and the major at this jail get to know me. When it comes time for like my third court date, the colonel talks to the major, and this is against the rules, this ain't supposed to happen. The major relieves the officer that takes everybody to court, and the major takes me to court, and the major of Monroe County takes me to court and talks to the judge, my lawyer, and everything else. And somehow, my God, this gets down to open cap at 10. They helped to bring that down all the way to rehab.
Wow.
I don't know how much, literally rehab. I'm looking at a 3-month rehab at Amethyst. I've got a job set up through ASI.
Come on, brother.
All the guards and everything I've met are actually my friends.
That's right. Come on.
They're my friends, man. They're good people, for real. And I would never be friend an officer. I always, no, that's not my breed, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've befriended a lot of different people, man. These are good people. Since I followed that sense of being in me, I've got a social network. I've got a job lined up. My open cap at 10 has got narrowed down to 3 months at Amethyst.
Amen.
I don't know how much probation. I'll probably be on probation the rest of my life. So, but I ain't been sentenced yet on all that. I come here to Brown County, and things go smooth here. Things go smooth here. I get into trustee. I get tied up in the trustee, and I'm losing it. As I'm trustee, I'm working all day long. I'm not focusing on my books and my sense of following my being and learning about something. Learning about God, as I've come to find out. I'm not ashamed to say. I used to always be ashamed to say that, or afraid to dip into that. But yeah, I kind of lost all that. October 17th. As I've been through all this bullshit, I remember jumping into the Bible and trying to find out what's right. And I would always run into things like scripture that says, if somebody takes your jacket, give them your shirt. Now, I'm just quoting it from what I remember. That ain't the exact thing, but it's in the Bible. Somebody takes your jacket, give them your shirt. Well, man, I might be following that sense of being and everything else, but when I run into that, what? No, man. In my sense of understanding, you should really beat him down and take all his clothes. You know, you should take his pants and everything just because he done you right. Plus, you need to teach this dude a lesson so he don't do that shit to nobody else. That's what's right to me in my mind. You know what I mean? And then there's another thing, like literally, I find my way with the Bible and getting drawn into that, and then I'm running into scripture talking about stuff like that, and then Jesus, how it talks about you should give yourself to Him, bow down to Him. That always contradicted with me. How can a God so good, this is how I believed it, how can a God so good tell you to bow down and totally give yourself to Him? In order to get into heaven, this is what you must do? Oh, man. No way. No way is anybody going to tell me to bow down to them, to give myself to them. And I wouldn't do that to anybody else. I would be belittling somebody to have them do that to me. This is how my mind perceived all of this. So immediately I turned away from Scripture. And that in itself would prove to me that, there ain't no God. That's craziness. And then there's another thing that, man, are you going to let me come up there and smack you in the cheek? Are you going to give me the other cheek? You going to let me have the other cheek? Nah, that's another one. No way, man, what is this? This craziness. But I was sitting in AA, and this is what really, October 17th, I got it all wrote down, everything. October 17th, I had an epiphany, man. And it was always there the whole time, but October 17th, I'm sitting in here, and we're all talking about our addictions and our problems and all this stuff. And a guy explains it so simple. He explains that if you just give yourself to the program, that we all just are sharing our stories and showing the love and being there for one another. And it helps you, you know what I mean? It pulls you in. And I could have, from acquainting to AA, and for some reason it just hit me, and I put that to Scripture, and I'm like, damn, that's what they're talking about. You know what I mean? That's what they're talking about. And then for some reason, my mind just does a 180 with quite a few things that stumble me up. Literally, if I was to come up and take your jacket, if you was to give me your shirt, I would probably drop everything and be like, what the fuck just happened? What, this is crazy, I'm done with this, you got me. You know what I mean? Literally. Same thing with any other aspect of the Scripture that was making me turn away from it. It all just hit me that, so I dig a little deeper, and man, literally the Bible I mean, it says things like this: when you bow down and give yourself to God, it's not necessarily giving yourself to God. It's bowing down to the fact that, and it says, I've got some of this stuff wrote down. It says God is love. Not God has love, anything like that. God is love. I mean, you're just, if you instill that type of love in your life and not, if you was to show that to others, man, is that not the remedy to all this chaos in the world, really?
Brother.
Seriously.
Amen.
I mean, I don't give a shit what we do. And I even wrote down some of this. I mean, it talks about love. It says, 1 Corinthians 14:1, let love be your greatest aim. Galatians 5:18, for the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's just coming to me like, man, this is real. This is just the beginning. I'm new to this, fellas. Totally new to this. I don't even know where I'm at right now, to tell you the truth, but I know where I'm going. And it says John 16, love means living the way God commanded us to live. As you have heard from the beginning, his commandment is this: live a life of love. I mean, that's the basic principle of his word, is what it says when you get all down to it. And really, if you ask me, like I said, man, damn, all the craziness that's going on out here, I mean, that's probably the only cure that I ever seen if you was to fix all of it. I talked to Tom about a few things, man. It's funny, you mentioned Gandhi, but I've actually found this. It was a rock I gave to my girlfriend when we first got married. And it was Gandhi saying this, and that always stuck with me throughout all my days. It said, Mahatma Gandhi stated this, to live is to love, and to love is to live. Man, when you're loving and you're feeling love, man, is that not the greatest sense? Is that not the greatest feeling, really? I mean, and I'm talking about your kids, everything's good. Everything's good, you know what I mean? But, I don't know, I had all this stuff wrote down and stuff. Yeah, I didn't follow most of it. But, anyway,
Amen.
I'm gonna read some of it, man. I think it's pretty deep. It hits me. Like, these are things that kept me running from the Bible, kept me running from, although I knew that sense of good was right, and every time I dipped into the Bible, I knew it was right. Religion, all that stuff. This is what kept me from dealing with it too. I mean, our government, all these people that we're supposed to follow, that we're supposed to believe is right, everything we do, man. Our aim might be to do something good, but the mankind is just crazy, man. I mean, this is, I wrote this down, I wrote some of this stuff down. This is from like C. Lewis, Eckhart Tolle, all this stuff. These guys, what they said is echoed through society, really. These are big dogs. I mean, a lot of people they've touched and everything else, man. So it hit me. And hey, I'm not preaching. Really, when I'm dipping into this is my story. Through me finding this and what I have, I've stayed in my books and I've tried to stay strong, and this is what I've found. And this is what helped me to stay strong to where I am right now. And that's why I'm not going to go without reading it, you know what I mean? So if it seems like I'm getting off track, whatever. But it talks about hierarchy, government, society, all that shit. It does. I thought this was pretty cool. It says, one reason, here, I'm going to put these on, man. So I'm looking intelligent. But it says hierarchy. I don't even, these are different books that I've got these out of. Really, I kind of put it all together and stuff like this, but it's literature that I've read that helped me along the way. It says hierarchy in government. It said one reason why we are experiencing true relationship is so difficult for us. Once you have a hierarchy, you need rules to protect and administer it. And then you need law and enforcement of the rules, and you end up with some kind of chain of command or system of order that destroys relationship rather than promotes. Hey, even though I'm talking about government and all this shit, I'm just talking about mankind in general. I mean, we're so lost. It seems like so lost, man. That's it. So be open-minded as I'm reading this. It's just not about hierarchy and government and everything to me. But it says you rarely see or experience a relationship apart from power. Hierarchy imposes laws, rules, and you end up missing the wonder of relationship that is meant for us. It says creation has been taken down a very different path than desired by God. In our world, the value of the individual is constantly weighed against the survival of the system, whether political, economic, social, religious, any system actually. First one person and then a few, and finally even many are easily sacrificed by the good and ongoing existence of that system. In one form or another, this lies behind every struggle for power, every prejudice, every war, and every issue of abusive relationship. The willpower and independence has become so ubiquitous that it is now considered normal. This is our, man, the world's insane if you ask me. When we choose independence over relationship, we become a danger to each other. Others become objects to be manipulated or managed for our own happiness. Authority, as we usually perceive it, is usually the excuse the strong use to make others conform to what they want. Man, does anybody, I mean, that shit just hits me. I mean, we always shoot for the mark, but we all want power and all that. We ain't in touch with love, you know what I mean? I don't know, I feel like I'm getting way off the point with all that, with all this. But really, if you read it, man, a lot of these reading it, man, I'm telling you, all I say is like Eckhart Tolle, C.L. Lewis, all that stuff, man. If you ain't found, if you're having trouble finding your way, just keep looking around, keep reading, keep studying up, man. You'll find it. You know what I mean? I think throughout the way I've looked up meanings to this, man. Meanings to different words, even small words like enlightenment, being, and stuff like that. I mean, it ties into spirituality. But it says, according to Christian teachings, the normal collective state of humanity is one of original sin. Sin is a word that has been greatly misunderstood and misinterpreted. Literally translated from the Greek, ancient Greek, in which the New Testament was written. To sin means to miss the mark, as an archer misses his target. That's what I've been doing all my life, to tell you the truth. I mean, I ain't been following what's good, although I've been doing what's right and beating that dude up that took my coat. I'm getting caught up in all the wrong things. I ain't seeing the love that we have in us to just stop and do it a little bit different.
There you go.
And you can change him, and it'll send a message out for everybody else, you know what I mean? Instead, I get caught up in the bullshit, the world, and who I become, you know what I mean? But, yeah, I ain't gonna read all this.
You're getting into our break if you
Yeah,
did.
yeah, right, I know. No, I didn't know this gets pretty deep though. Check it out, this gets pretty deep. Because like Eckhart Tolle breaks this down into, if you read this book, if you're having troubles finding religion or whatever, he helps you to think about breaking down everything. Break down words, take away words, take away what your mind knows. You label things, everything, the government, your life, you've learned things, blah, blah, blah. And that's what's made you who you are. Man, just focus on stripping all that down, and man, it just brings you back to that sense of being. You know what I mean? What you know is right. Man, I ain't gonna leave this out, but I'm talking about that sense of being. Throughout my whole life, I've done what I thought was right. And there's been times that I'm dead set on doing what I think is right, but I've been stopped in my tracks by that sense of being I'm trying to stress right now. I think back to moments of, I was standing at a gas station waiting on my mom to come out of the gas station years ago. And I'm smoking a cigarette, I'm waiting on her. Man, I look over, this car pulls up. This is just me, this is how I am all my life. But this car pulls up over here. I'm at the doorway. This chick is in the driver's side, and this guy's in the front. And this younger chick, she's younger, pretty little thing. And I see this guy, all I remember, I see this dude haul off and just gun smoke her on the side of the head. And immediately, I dropped my cigarette. This is, I really can't even remember if this chick was opening her door, if the door was open. But all I remember is I black out, I'm over there. I'm in her door, leaning over her. This dude's locking his door, won't get out of the car. But I'm after this dude because, man, he's beating up on somebody who can't defend herself. You know what I mean? And I'm ready to teach this dude what I think's right. But I swear to you, as right as I think I am, I look in the back seat and I see 3 little kids, man, staring at me. And immediately, why did I stop? You know what I mean? Why did I stop? Man, them little kids, it was like, that's a sense of being, really. Those little kids, if you think about it. And they were staring right through me. And I don't know, those are just little stories. I stopped. I knew that what I was doing, what he was doing, whatever we was all doing, it was wrong, you know what I mean? And I don't even know why. I thought it was wrong because I believe it's right. I believe I should have beat his ass. But something tells me that, no, it was totally wrong, man. The little kids will need to see this type of stuff. That's all wrong. But that's just a little example of something that, when I think I'm right, I'm really wrong. I just need to dig down a little deeper and take a different step.
That's right, brother.
Yeah. Man, I got to read this. We was talking about, man, like right now, even though I found where I'm at, and I know it's a beautiful thing. Seriously, man, it's a beautiful thing. I've been through the dirt, fellas. I ain't want to touch preach on God too much or anything, but I'm new to this. I was preaching, we was talking about when you find this, what religion to go to or whatever. I think this hits base on what we was talking about the other day, but I also feel that it hits base with where I'm at. I'm actually, a small part of me does not want to take this in still. I'm new to it, I don't want to really conform to it, but I know it's the right thing. But me and Craig read this. I think this is so cool though, and what we was talking about. It says, It is more like a hall out of which doors open into several rooms. If I can bring anyone into that hall, I have so done what I must start. If I can bring anyone into that hall, I shall have done what I attempted. But it is in the rooms, not in the hall, that there are fires and chairs and meals. The hall is a place to wait in, a place from which to try the various doors, not a place to live in. For that purpose, the worst of the rooms, whichever that may be, is, I think, preferable. It is a true that some people may find they have to wait in the hall for a considerable amount of time, while others feel certain almost at once which door they must knock at. I do not know why there is this difference, but I am sure God keeps no one waiting unless he sees that it is good for him to wait. When you do get into your room, you will find that the long wait has done you some kind of good, which you would not have had otherwise. But you must regard it as waiting, not as camping. You must keep on praying for the light, and of course, even in the hall, you must begin trying to obey the rules which are common to the whole house. And above all, you must be asking which door is the true one, not which pleases you best by its paint and paneling. In plain language, the question should never be, do I like that kind of service? But, are these doctrines true? Is this holiness here? Does my conscience move me towards this? Is my reluctance to knock at this door due to my pride, or my mere taste, or my personal dislike of this particular doorkeeper? When you have reached your own room, be kind to those who have chosen different doors, and to those who are still in the hall. If they are wrong, they need your prayers all the more. And if they are your enemies, then you are under orders to pray for them. That is one of the rules common to the whole house. I can read it 2 or 3 times, man. It hits me on a better level every time. I don't know. Thanks, man.
Nice job, man. Nice job, brother.
Good job.
You want
I
to pray us
hope-
out? You want to pray us out?